So in this session, we're going to explore the fascinating world of barristers, solicitors, and the judiciary in England and Wales. You can imagine the legal system as a theatre with lots of characters, each playing a unique role. Some are on the stage, some are backstage, but all are crucial to the show. And let's start with the barristers. So you can think of them as the actors who step onto the main stage of the courtroom, maybe delivering powerful performances to sway the judge and jury. But becoming a barrister is a bit like earning a black belt in law. It's a journey with several stages. Academic stage first, so you'll need a qualifying law degree, an LLB. So LLB stands for Bachelor of Laws, and this is the undergraduate degree which is awarded to those who study law at university. Perhaps though you have a degree in something else, maybe engineering or history, and you can take a one-year detour with a GDL, a Graduate Diploma in Law. Then we move on to the vocational stage, where you enrol in the bar training course. And this gives you the practical skills to stand up in court without falling flat on your face. And finally, you do a one-year apprenticeship called a pupillage. It's split into the first 6, meaning the first 6 months, where you watch and learn. And then you have a second 6, where you get on your feet and you try a few cases yourself. Now, barristers are the experts in advocacy. And that means basically the skill of representing and arguing for a client in court. Now, they're usually called in by solicitors to present complex cases in higher courts. They also draft legal documents and negotiate settlements. And in order to practice as a barrister, you've got to join one of the 4 Inns of Court. And you can picture those a little bit like the Hogwarts houses for lawyers, really. Then historically, it's worth mentioning that barristers are mostly known for their privileged backgrounds and posh accents, but I think that's changing. The doors are opening a little wider now. And if you're really outstanding at advocacy, you might even be appointed a King's Counsel, a KC, sort of like being knighted for lawyers. There's a famous story, just before we move on, of a barrister who wore mismatched shoes to the High Court. And when he was asked why he'd done that, he said, well, it's not my shoes that matter, it's the points I make. And we can take a moral from that story, because it's the skills and the substance of the barrister that beat the style. Let's move on to have a look at the solicitors now. These are the trusted advisors. So if barristers are the actors, well, solicitors are a bit like the directors, working behind the scenes to guide, plan and prepare. And they're the first port of call for clients. They manage paperwork, contracts, they give legal advice on everything from house sales to business deals. So how do you become a solicitor? Well, actually, the journey is changing. So first of all, you get your law degree as before, or you take the GDL if your first degree was in another subject. Then have to pass the solicitor's qualifying examination, which was introduced in 2021. It's the new audition, if you like, to prove you've got the right stuff. And then finally, solicitors have to complete 2 years of qualifying work experience, a bit like an internship, where they learn the ropes in real legal settings. So solicitors are admitted to the role, which is what we call the official list, by the Solicitors Regulation Authority. And while their profession has always been a bit more diverse than the bar, there's still work to be done to include people from all backgrounds. Now, some solicitors even qualify as solicitor advocates. And this gives them the right to appear in higher courts. So there's a bit of a blurring there of the line between solicitor and barrister. We could say that if the legal profession were a hospital, solicitors are a little bit like the GPs. You go and see them first for advice, and if needed, they might refer you on to a specialist. And in our analogy, that would then be the barrister. So, the structure of the legal professions now. So, the legal profession in England and Wales is famously split. So, we have barristers and solicitors having different training and different roles, but their paths do cross, especially with solicitor advocates, as we mentioned before. Now, barristers usually work for themselves in groups called chambers, while solicitors are typically found in law firms, companies, or government departments. So, legal executives and paralegals. Not all legal work is done by barristers and solicitors. There are also legal executives, and they specialise in areas like conveyancing, which means buying and selling houses, in probate, which is when you deal with wills, and they qualify through the Chartered Institute of Legal Executives, SILEX, by completing specific diplomas and work experience. We also have paralegals, who you may call the unsung heroes, because they're often working behind the scenes to research, to draft documents, to organise case files. And there's no set path to becoming a paralegal, but many do hold certificates or diplomas in law. Let's take a look now at how the profession is regulated, how we're keeping everyone in check. So each profession is regulated by its own watchdog. So barristers have the Bar Standards Board, solicitors have the Solicitors Regulation Authority, and legal executives have the SILEX regulation. Now, all legal professionals must follow strict codes of conduct. They must keep up with training, and they must have professional insurance. And if things go wrong, clients can take their complaints to the legal ombudsman. It's a bit like referees in sports. Each player is monitored to make sure they follow the rules, and there's an appeal if you think there's been a foul. So let's take a look at the judiciary. We might actually call those the referees of law, or the guardians of justice, perhaps. So the judiciary, the judges, we could call them, as I said, the referees of our legal game. So what is their job? Well, it's to make sure everyone plays by the rules, to ensure trials are fair, to protect rights and to keep things running smoothly. Judges also help develop the law with their decisions, as we've seen in previous videos, setting precedents. So there is a hierarchy, and let's have a look at who's who on the bench. So at the top there we've got Supreme Court justices, and these are the top judges in the land. Next we have the Court of Appeal judges in both the civil and criminal divisions. Then High Court judges. Then we have circuit judges, district judges, and finally magistrates, or justices of the peace. And then we have district judges as well in Magistrates Court too. So the king is responsible, sort of as a technicality if you like, for appointing all judges in the country, except for magistrates. Magistrates, who are also known as justices of the peace, they're not chosen by the king. Instead, they're appointed by the Lord Chancellor. So this means that while the king selects most judges, the process for appointing magistrates is different and handled by a separate official. So to be a judge, well, you need to show legal expertise, of course. You need some integrity and independence as well to become a judge. And there's also training as well. At the Judicial College. Think of it as like judge school, really. Diversity is a big focus now, as we've mentioned before, with efforts to bring in judges from a wider range of backgrounds and not just senior barristers. Okay, regulation and accountability of judges. So judges, we know they've got to stay impartial and independent. So if there's ever any misconduct, the Judicial Conduct Investigations Office steps in, and removal is rare. Judicial independence is protected, so judges can make tough decisions without fear. Their independence is guaranteed by laws like the Constitutional Reform Act 2005, which keeps politics out of the classroom. courtroom even. Apologies. Let's just cover the rule of law as well, and just remember that no one is above the law. So this is one of the most important principles, isn't it, in our system? It's the rule of law, where everyone is subject to the law, including those in power. So judges are there to make sure even the government follows the rules. Okay, moving on to magistrates and district judges. And this is justice at a more local level, if you like. So magistrates, or justices of the peace, are volunteer lay judges who handle minor criminal cases, family matters, and some civil issues. They don't need legal qualifications, but get special training and support. District judges in magistrate courts are full-time, qualified judges who handle more complex cases. Now, both of these roles are going to require the same characteristics of integrity, understanding, and public service. As mentioned before, magistrates are chosen by local advisory committees and appointed by the Lord Chancellor, whereas district judges are appointed by the King, but again on the advice of the Lord Chancellor as well. And there's more on this actually in a separate video on magistrates in particular. So just a final thought then, a final conclusion. So whether you think you'd like to command the courtroom as a barrister or guide clients as a solicitor, or maybe you'd like to sit in judgment as a judge, remember there's a place for every talent in the legal system. It's a bit like being part of a really big, really complicated theatre production. Everyone has a role, and the show only works when everyone plays their part.